Everybody sympathises with in this country, the press, the government and the opposition.
I think it's very obvious that we should continue the pressure on Iraq through various channels, including other officials and other officials, government, the British government and other governments whom I visited. They support the ideas. And they have the channels which is endless in supporting these humanitarian questions. One should be talking to all the organizations who deal with human rights, deals with mankind. There's a lot of them in Europe and England. We'll talk about it when the opportunity comes, when you are interviewed to do anything with Dennis, with anything in the Middle East. Don't forget the POWs. Talk about them. So, the more you talk about it, the better it is. Put pressure on Iraq. Maybe the Iraqis, they watch Kuwait TV and they watch Kuwait radio tremendously, and they know this is propaganda, and they say this is propaganda because we meet with them, as Lady Olga said. It's several times, not only Kuwait and Iraq. Don't take the impression that we meet the two countries, no. We meet with our friends from the Arab, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, United States, United Kingdom, France. We meet 4 times a year in Geneva as the technical subcommittee, the tripartite committee. The technical subcommittee meets every month in the border between Kuwait and Iraq. One time in Kuwait land, the other on Iraq land, with the presidents of the countries I mentioned. Their representative there. The result is 0, but if you continue talking about it, so then it's the better, not only to the press, but to the members of parliament. By the way, talk to your member of parliament. Thank you very much, Dennis.
First of all, I'd like to compliment Lady Magdalene on a wonderful presentation. But this question is addressed to His Highness Sheikh Salim. Very recently, we've witnessed in the Gulf an increasing of the level of the non-governmental organizations within Kuwait in regard to this matter. And they do differ with the government in regard to the solving of this problem. I mean, first of all, our hearts and prayers are with the families of these missing persons. But there are other organizations.
Repeat the next question, please.
The question is in reference to the other non-governmental organizations within Kuwait that do not see eye to eye with the government versus the issue of prisoners of war.
Which government?
No, other organizations. I mean, there are committees that are non-governmental.
See eye to eye to which government?
I'll tell you also, we just had in Doha a group of families.
I know you know what you have.
And they argued with the press, because I saw the press review. And they argued that we do not agree with the government, that there are alternative ways of solving this problem. Are there any other ways that the government of Kuwait is not doing or consulting with the families of these people?
Well, unfortunately, you have hosted people who have nothing to do with the POWs. None of them is a member of the families of the POWs. Those are people who are against the POWs in principles. None of them is relative to any POWs. They want to set up a complete different setup, which is human rights, which is the parliament did not allow them to set it up. So unfortunately, that was a mistake from your embassy, which they granted a visa, and they wrote to your government saying that they are a member of the family, and your ambassador are being sent, I think being summed up to the Foreign Office in Kuwait and being told, consult with us.
Well, that's precisely what I'm asking Sheikh Salim, because frankly, 90% of which claim that there are families of missing persons. I mean, I don't think that of course could be checked, but 90% of them said that we're either brothers or sisters or fathers or sons of missing people. I'm not so sure about that point, because they obviously articulated that they are from, whether it's a case or not. Such organizations, does the government intend to sort of bring under their umbrella, maybe try to talk about alternative ways of solving this? And my reason of asking Sheikh Salim is not really to appease Saddam Hussein or acquiesce him, but maybe we should sort of, if it's going to solve the problem, let us try any other way of solving this problem with Saddam, because obviously I know he has denied having any Iranians for the longest time, and finally he gave it. If there is anything that the rest of the Gulf could do, I think...
Yes, there is, Sheikh Abdurrahman.
If you allow me, thank you, Mr. President. My name is Saad Aidmi from Kuwait Information Center in London. I think that I'd like to take up the second part of the fine speech by Lady Olga Maitland regarding the sanctions against the Iraqi regime. You see, the unfortunate, perhaps literal translation of sanctions in most of the Arabic literature, excuse me, is the equivalent word for a siege, which is hisar. And the international community has not actually sieged the Iraqi people as such. It is unfortunately the Iraqi regime itself that has inflicted and has used the tragedy and the misery of his own people for his own political gains. And I agree with you in that regard, recalling Resolution 706 and 712 promulgated back in August 1991. Had the Iraqi regime implemented that resolution, it would have solved the equivalent of, up to this point, $25 billion that would have gone solely after all of those deductions required to medical aid and for food to the Iraqi people. Now, with regard to the POWs, I think that the thing in Kuwait is that I agree that there are differences in Kuwait and there are variations over how we should actually get back these POWs back. And I think that differences in democracies emerge all the time. The fact that there has been a representation or a delegation by the families of the Pan Am 101, or was it 107? To Libya is not actually in contradiction of the fact that there has been a tragedy. Somebody has to be brought to justice regardless of who does it. And likewise, with all of those peace-loving people and nations in the world, I think that they should, regardless of who is doing this effort, whether it is Sheikh Salim or Saad or NGOs or whoever, I think that the world actually should really collaborate in order to bring an end to this human tragedy. Thank you.
I'd like to actually call upon the earlier question remarks about the use of NGOs, because I think NGOs have a very key role. I think they enrich the debate, and the more you have a debate, the more you keep the issue in the air. If it's only one body doing it, it might be considered, of marginal interest, but the more there is a conflicting debate, the more actually you're keeping it alive. I think it's very important that we do keep it alive. I worry, frankly, that there are human rights abuses of frightening scale across the globe. Just look in Africa, for instance, where you've got millions of people being killed by genocide, and the scale of that tends to dumb down the importance that about these Kuwaiti POWs. They may be small in number compared to, let's say, an African genocide, but in proportion terms, of course, they're almost on the same scale. And I think you have to keep the debate alive, and therefore I'm very much hoping that Dr. John Reid will use his own endeavours with the Foreign Office to keep up that pressure, since they have made that commitment on their ethical policy, which must embrace human rights. So I have great faith and hope and expectations that we will see this. And if we see any slowing down on that, then I think it's up to every one of us to ask questions.
We'll take just one final question.
Question for Sheikh Salim. At the end of the Kuwait conflict, there was much discussion of the 4 levels of defense cooperation on the part of GCC states, which you enunciated clearly for us. 7 years on, I can see considerable progress at the first level and also at the 4th, but I do find something of a gap on the second, that is to say, the immediate regional GCC cooperation or integration, and at the wider Arab level 3. I wonder if you'd like to comment on that.
There is a what?
There is a gap. There is a gap between the first level you mentioned of national development of military deterrent capability and the 4th level, that is to say, alliance or cooperation with the major Western partners. At levels 2 and 3 of a regional kind, one does not see very much real progress.
Well, I think on the first part that we are doing our best and utmost to build up our harmony within the GCC and with Arab, as well as with our friends alliance here. Secondly, I don't know what you mean with alliance with the Western. I mean, if you mean that we should go into practice together, we should have a defense agreements, or only we are buyers and you are sellers. Depends on what you, I didn't get what you meant in that particular.
No, clarifying. What I'm talking about is that important middle layer of regional integration among the GCC states and their close Arab partners as a deterrent element for Gulf security. It's that regional combination which was much discussed in 1991 and 1992, led to the Damascus Declaration and so forth, which has not shown it appears to me very much progress since.
No, the progress is there. I mean, don't ignore the result. At least they are meeting. That by itself is important, and discussing their difficulties with the building up there. I mean, recently there was a meeting in Damascus for Damascus declarations, and we agreeing on various fields in Damascus declaration. Damascus declaration is not built purely on a military basis. It's on various bases: economic, political, social, and military. And it was shown itself when the elections of Kuwait took place. And they participate physically, and they participate, as I said in my word, that they participate in exercises with us, and that by itself is a step ahead. I don't expect, with all respect to military people around me, within 24 hours you will have a coordination between armies. Within the armies you have to have exercises between one division to another, to have continuous exercises together. I have the previous Lord H, he was Chief of Staff, he visited us in Kuwait, and I hope others will visit us in Kuwait. We are discussing the various fields and cooperation. Need a lot of exercises together within the army itself. So I'm optimistic that the Arab world will come one day around in that respect. Thank you.